Sometimes the moment we think everything is lost is exactly when life is about to change forever. Picture this: a worn-out single father walking out of the biggest interview of his life, knowing he just blew his only chance. His shoulders are heavy, his heart is breaking, and he's wondering how he'll face his little girl tonight. But what he doesn't know is that someone is watching. Someone who sees something far more valuable than a perfect resume or a flawless interview performance. And in just seconds, that someone is about to chase him down and change everything. Before we dive into this incredible true story, if you believe in the power of kindness and want more stories that restore your faith in humanity, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for Kindness Hub. Drop a comment below telling us about a time when someone showed you unexpected kindness. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like so we can spread this message to even more people who need to hear it today. Now let's begin. Marcus Rivera stood outside the gleaming 40-story building in downtown Chicago, trying to steady his breathing. His hands were shaking as he straightened his tie for the 100th time. The tie was old, borrowed from his late father's closet, but it was the nicest one he had. His suit jacket was a size too big, purchased from a thrift store 3 days ago with money he'd been saving for his daughter's school supplies. But this interview was worth it. This job could change everything. Marcus was 32 years old, but the lines on his face told the story of someone who'd lived much longer. 2 years ago, his wife Sarah had died in a car accident, leaving him alone to raise their 6-year-old daughter, Emma. The grief had been crushing, but he couldn't afford to fall apart. Emma needed him. So he'd worked 3 part-time jobs, juggling shifts at a grocery store, a night cleaning service, and weekend construction gigs. He barely slept, he rarely ate properly, but Emma never went to bed hungry, and she never missed a day of school. The problem was that these jobs barely kept them afloat. Their tiny apartment had a leaking ceiling. The heat didn't work properly in winter, and Marcus knew that Emma was growing up too fast, her childhood slipping away while he worked himself to exhaustion. He wanted better for her. He needed better for her. Now, that's why this interview at Titanium Innovations, one of the most successful tech companies in the country, felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. Marcus had applied for a mid-level operations manager position. He knew he was underqualified on paper. His resume had gaps, his college degree was from a small community college, and he'd never worked at a company even a fraction of this size. But he'd written his cover letter straight from the heart, explaining his situation, his work ethic, and his desperate hope for a chance to prove himself. Somehow, miraculously, they'd called him in. Now, standing in that massive lobby with its marble floors and contemporary art installations, Marcus felt completely out of place. Other candidates sat in the waiting area, all of them looking polished and confident in their expensive suits, typing away on the latest laptops. Marcus clutched his old portfolio folder and tried not to think about the fact that his phone was held together with tape. When they called his name, his heart nearly exploded. He followed a sharp-dressed woman to the elevator, then down a long hallway to a conference room. 3 people sat behind a long table, 2 HR professionals and someone he recognized immediately from the company website. It was James Colton himself, the billionaire CEO and founder of Titanium Innovations. Marcus's mouth went dry. He hadn't expected the CEO to be part of the interview panel. The interview started well enough. Marcus answered questions about his experience, his problem-solving skills, his leadership style. He tried to be honest without sounding desperate. He talked about managing teams at the grocery store, about coordinating schedules for the cleaning crew, about learning to adapt and think quickly on construction sites. But as the interview progressed, he could see the doubt growing in their eyes. Then came the technical questions, the ones about software systems and corporate processes that Marcus had tried to study but didn't fully understand. He stumbled, he hesitated, he gave answers that were clearly wrong, and he could see it in their faces. The 2 HR professionals exchanged glances. James Colton leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. The final blow came when they asked about his availability to work late hours and travel occasionally for the company. Marcus's heart sank. He thought about Emma, about who would pick her up from school, about the fact that he couldn't afford childcare beyond the after-school program that ended at 6. He tried to explain his situation honestly about being a single father, about needing some flexibility. As soon as the words left his mouth, he knew he'd made a mistake. One of the HR professionals actually winced. The other started writing notes with a finality that felt like a door slamming shut. Marcus saw his chance evaporating before his eyes and panic set in. He started talking too fast, over-explaining, trying to backtrack and say he could figure something out, but he was just making it worse. The warmth drained from the room. The interview that had felt like a conversation now felt like a formality they needed to finish. When they thanked him for his time and said they'd be in touch, Marcus knew exactly what that meant. He shook their hands, managed a weak smile, and walked out of that conference room, feeling like he was carrying a boulder on his chest. He moved through the hallway in a daze, took the elevator down, crossed the lobby, and pushed through the glass doors into the cold Chicago afternoon. The moment the outside air hit his face, something inside him broke. He made it about half a block before he had to stop and lean against a building wall. His eyes stung with tears he refused to let fall. How was he going to tell Emma? She'd been so excited this morning, giving him a pep talk over their breakfast of discount cereal, telling him he was the best daddy in the world, and he was going to get the job because he was the smartest and hardest working person she knew. The faith in her eyes had carried him through the morning. Now he'd let her down. Marcus stood there for a long moment, trying to pull himself together. He thought about the bills waiting at home, about Emma's upcoming birthday, about the notice from their landlord about a rent increase. He thought about how tired he was, how every bone in his body ached, how he couldn't remember the last time he'd felt truly rested or hopeful. For just a moment, he let himself feel the full weight of his exhaustion and his fear. That's when he heard rapid footsteps behind him and a voice calling out, "Excuse me, sir, wait!" Marcus turned around, confused. Running toward him, slightly out of breath and without a coat despite the cold, was James Colton himself. The billionaire CEO had actually left his building and was chasing after him down the sidewalk. Marcus stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. James reached him, breathing hard, his expensive dress shirt ruffled from the run. "I'm sorry," he said, catching his breath. "I couldn't let you just walk away like that." Marcus stared at him, bewildered. "I don't understand." James's face was serious but kind. "That interview, it didn't go the way you hoped. I could see it, we all could. But I watched you very carefully in there, Marcus. May I call you Marcus?" Marcus nodded, still too stunned to speak properly. "I watched the way you answered our questions," James continued. "You didn't have all the right answers. You don't have the typical background we usually look for. But you know what you did have? Honesty. When you didn't know something, you admitted it instead of trying to fake your way through. When we asked about your availability, you could have lied to make yourself look better, but you told us the truth about your daughter. You put her first, even when you knew it might cost you the job." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "I needed this job. I shouldn't have been so honest. I should have just said what you wanted to hear." "No," James said firmly. "That's exactly why I ran after you. Do you know how rare that kind of integrity is? We interview dozens of candidates every week. Most of them will say anything to get hired. They'll tell us they can work 80 hours a week, that they have no commitments, that they're willing to drop everything for the company. Then 3 months later, we find out it was all exaggeration. They burn out, they resent the job, they leave." James took a step closer, his eyes intent. "You didn't do that. You showed me something that can't be taught in any business school. You showed me character, and I realized something sitting in that room. I realized I was evaluating you all wrong. We were all evaluating you wrong." "I don't have the experience you need," Marcus said quietly. "I know that. Experience can be learned," James replied. "I can teach anyone our software systems. I can train someone on corporate processes. But I cannot teach integrity. I cannot teach the work ethic of someone who's been juggling 3 jobs to support their child. I cannot teach the loyalty of someone who puts their daughter first, even when everything is on the line." Marcus felt tears forming despite his best efforts to hold them back. What are you saying? James smiled, and it transformed his entire face from intimidating CEO to someone warm and human. I'm saying I want to offer you a position, but not the one you applied for. I want to create something different, something that actually fits your situation. We have a role in our operations department that involves overseeing logistics and team coordination, things I think you'd be brilliant at given your experience managing multiple jobs and responsibilities. The hours are more structured, 8 to 5, no mandatory overtime. You'd be home for your daughter. And the salary is higher than the position you interviewed for because honestly, I think you'll be worth every penny. Marcus couldn't speak. He literally couldn't form words. His mind was reeling. There's something else, James continued, his voice softening. 20 years ago, I was you. I was a single parent, working myself to death, trying to raise my son alone after my wife left us. I know what it's like to sit in your car in a parking lot and cry because you're so tired you can't see straight. I know what it's like to choose between paying the electric bill or buying your kid new shoes. I know what it's like to feel like you're failing. Marcus's tears fell now, and he didn't try to stop them. Someone gave me a chance back then, James said. A man who saw past my messy resume and my obvious desperation. He hired me for a job I wasn't qualified for because he believed in my potential. He told me that one day, when I had the power to do so, I should pay it forward. That man has passed away now, but I made him a promise. I told him I'd never forget what he did for me, and that I'd spend my life looking for people who needed the same chance I got. James extended his hand. So, what do you say, Marcus? Will you let me pay it forward? Marcus shook his hand, gripping it hard, unable to speak through his tears. Finally, he managed to whisper, "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." I think I do, James said gently. Go home to your daughter. Tell her about your new job. Our HR team will contact you Monday with all the details, paperwork, and your start date. And Marcus? One more thing. I heard you mention in the interview that Emma's birthday is coming up. Consider your first paycheck in advance. Make sure she has a birthday worth remembering. Marcus broke down completely then. This man, this billionaire CEO who could have stayed in his comfortable office, who could have simply sent a rejection email like everyone else, had run after him down a Chicago street to offer him not just a job, but hope. Real, tangible hope for a better future. The following Monday, Marcus started his new position at Titanium Innovations. The job was everything James had promised and more. His colleagues were welcoming, his responsibilities were challenging but manageable, and for the first time in 2 years, Marcus worked normal hours. He picked Emma up from school himself. They had dinner together every night. He helped her with homework and read her bedtime stories. He started sleeping more than 4 hours a night. The constant knot of anxiety in his chest slowly began to unravel. Emma's birthday party was magical. Marcus was able to rent a small venue, invite her whole class, and buy her the bicycle she'd been dreaming about. The look on her face when she saw it made every hardship he'd endured worthwhile. But more than the presents or the party, what mattered most was that Marcus was present, truly present for the first time in so long. Over the following months, Marcus flourished in his role. He brought insights from his years of juggling multiple jobs, understanding workflow efficiency in ways that surprised even the senior staff. James had been right to bet on him. But beyond the professional success, something else happened. James became a mentor and eventually a friend. He taught Marcus not just about business, but about leadership, about seeing people's potential, about the responsibility that comes with success. 3 years later, Marcus was promoted as Senior Operations Director. He'd built a reputation as someone who genuinely cared about every person on his team, who understood that behind every employee was a human being with struggles and dreams. He made it a personal mission to look for people like he'd been, overlooked, underestimated, but full of untapped potential. He began personally reviewing applications that other managers had rejected, looking for those honest cover letters that revealed character over credentials. And he found them. He hired a formerly homeless veteran who became one of their best project managers. He gave a chance to a woman returning to work after years as a caregiver who revolutionized their customer service approach. He brought on a young man with a criminal record who'd truly reformed, who turned out to have a brilliant mind for problem solving. Each time, Marcus saw James's smile of approval, understanding that the cycle of kindness was continuing. Today, Marcus Rivera is Executive Vice President at Titanium Innovations. Emma is 13 now, thriving in school, and talking about wanting to start a nonprofit someday to help families like theirs used to be. James Colton still stops by Marcus's office regularly, not as CEO checking on an employee, but as a friend. They talk about their kids, about the challenges of leadership, and about the importance of remembering where they came from. But the story that changed everything, the day James ran after Marcus down a Chicago street, has become legendary within the company. New employees hear about it during orientation, about the CEO who refused to let a good person slip away, who valued character over credentials. It's become part of the company culture, a reminder that business success and human kindness aren't opposing forces but complementary ones. Marcus still keeps that old tie from his father, the one he wore to that failed interview. It hangs framed in his office now with a small plaque underneath that reads, "A reminder that our lowest moments can become our greatest blessings when someone chooses kindness." This story isn't just about one man getting a job or one CEO making a generous gesture. It's about the ripple effect of kindness, about how one moment of compassion can change not just one life, but dozens, even hundreds. Every person Marcus has hired has their own story of struggle and redemption. Every family helped is another ripple spreading outward. And it all started because one man was willing to run out into the cold and give someone a second chance. In a world that often feels harsh and competitive, where success seems to belong only to those with perfect resumes and flawless interviews, Marcus's story reminds us of a powerful truth. Our greatest strength is often found in our humanity, not our credentials. The qualities that matter most, integrity, resilience, compassion, and authenticity, can't be listed on a resume. They reveal themselves in how we treat others, in the honesty we show even when it costs us, in the priorities we maintain even under pressure. So here's the challenge the story leaves us with. Look around you. Who in your life needs someone to run after them? Who needs someone to see their potential when everyone else sees their flaws? Who needs someone to offer a hand up instead of judgment? You might not be a billionaire CEO, but you have power you don't even realize. A word of encouragement to someone who's struggling. A recommendation for someone who deserves a chance. A moment of your time given to someone who feels invisible. These acts of kindness might seem small to you, but they could be everything to someone else. Marcus and James prove that success built on kindness isn't just more meaningful, it's actually more sustainable. Companies built on genuine care for people don't just make more money, they make more impact. Lives built on lifting others up don't just feel better, they create a legacy that outlasts any professional achievement. When we choose to see people's potential instead of just their problems, when we choose compassion over judgment, when we choose to run after someone instead of letting them walk away, we don't just change their story, we change our own. Let Marcus's story inspire you today. Maybe you're the person walking away from a failed interview, feeling like all hope is lost. Hold on. Your James Colton might be right behind you. Or maybe you're the person with the power to help, wondering if it's worth the effort. It is. Run after them. Give them the chance they deserve. Be the turning point in someone's story, because in the end, the measure of our lives isn't found in our titles or bank accounts. It's found in the lives we've touched, the hope we've restored, and the kindness we've scattered like seeds that grow into forests. Be someone's miracle today. Chase them down, change their life, and watch how it changes yours too.